All right. So I am Maritza and Toria is here also. We are with Living Classrooms Foundation, and our workshop today at Healing City, we're so excited to be here, is called Forever Loving Your Family. We are going to be practicing mindfulness. We're going to start with some gratitude prompts. We're going to have a graphic organizer that can be helpful for doing a family check-in. We're going to share some information about decolonized parenting, restorative practices, hierarchy of needs, love languages, and how all of that can help with spending better quality time together as a family. Throughout today, we'll be practicing mindfulness and taking deep breaths together. And at the end, we'll have time to make a quality time action plan. So hopefully today you'll be walking away with one concrete action plan or action that you can start taking with your family for better quality time together. So we're going to start today, and this is a suggestion for a practice for you to start as an individual at home or with your family, to start the day with gratitude and take your opportunities as they come throughout the day for mindful moments. An affirmation that I've been using this year is I am focused on my desired reality. And if that sticks with you, go ahead and take it, think about it, write it down. But together, what we're going to do is take some nice deep breaths in. We're going to inhale through our nose, exhale through our mouth. And this slide has some gratitude prompts for you. If one of them resonates with you, if you connect with it, feel free to write it down. Feel free to stick with one as you're taking those deep breaths in. And we're going to do that together. In 3, 2, 1, inhaling through the nose. Taking a pause and thinking about something that made you smile today and letting it out on the exhale. And another deep breath in through your nose. Holding it with a pause and thinking about an act of kindness that you gave or might give later or have received today, and letting it out with your exhale. And one more deep breath in, holding that pause, holding your breath, and thinking about an experience that has filled you with joy, and letting it go on your exhale. Taking deep breaths can help reset your body, reset your mind, make you more focused. And then if you add some gratitude with it, you're adding positivity into your life, into your thoughts, and sharing that as a family. As I mentioned before, we're with Living Classrooms, and I've been there a little over 6 years. Living Classrooms has been around for over 30 years, and our work is focused on disrupting the cycle of poverty through hands-on learning, workforce development, health and wellness, and violence prevention programming. I'm the Director of Social and Emotional Wellness, and in that field of everything that Living Classrooms does, we have conflict mediations through our Safe Streets program, physical health, social emotional health, physical fitness, through our community centers. Most of our work is in East Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and there's a lot that Living Classrooms does. So I encourage you to take a look at the website, follow on Instagram to see what other programs you might be interested in. The next slide is a family check-in that we are encouraging you to do today. And we started today with physically and emotionally. In the chat box as you were coming in, we asked you to think about, where are you today physically feeling? How are you emotionally feeling? And that's the beginning of this graphic organizer. It's an easy prompt to think about how your body physically feels, where you might be holding tension in your body, where you might be feeling tight, and then thinking about your emotions, doing that mental check-in with yourself. The challenge here is that you might be super inspired to do this all by yourself for you as an individual. And what about if you tried it with your family or your close loved ones around you? So take the next minute, connect with your breath, some deep inhale through your through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. And check in with yourself on where your mind is or what it might need this weekend. Check in with where your body is and how it feels, what it might need today or over the next few days. And then your spirit. How are you contributing? Have you taken a time to pause? What's your passion? Are your actions aligned with these things? So this is a nice way to organize these thoughts. And if you wanted to start writing it down in a journal, that's what I do so that I can keep track of how I'm feeling, of where my needs are on a certain day. And then the nice thing about having it written down is that you can go back to it. So if I'm feeling a certain way today, I can maybe take a look a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and see how I was feeling and notice if there are any patterns. The nice thing about doing these check-ins is that you're kind of collecting data on yourself and your family. And then at the top are prompts for what color is your heart today? After you've thought about all of these things, you will be deeply connected with yourself, and you might have an answer to what color is your heart today. And that's also a nice conversation opener for children. Instead of asking them, how are you feeling, where you might get a good or a fine, what color is your heart today might give you the color, and then you can ask more questions to find out that deeper meaning behind the color. So I'm going to give you just 1 minute to do this on your own. Take a look at the different sections, maybe take a deep breath with each one, and just notice what comes up. When we practice mindfulness, this is what we're doing. We're connecting with our mind and our body and not judging. You're just observing. Narrating today, Friday, almost 11:30. This is who you are. This is where you are. So we'll take 30 seconds to just be alone with your thoughts. Now I'm moving on to the next slide, which includes some door openers for conversations. That last slide with the graphic organizer and using it as a family check-in might be the beginning conversation for you and your family. And when your friends or your family start sharing how they're emotionally or how they're connected with their mind, if you want to get a little deeper in the conversation, you might raise your eyebrows in surprise. You might nod your head up and down as they're speaking. You're following the conversation. Or you can try any of the following that are on the screen. Wow, you're kidding. Then what happened? So this works with kids and adults. To keep the conversation going and just learn a little more about what someone is trying to say. And all of this I have framed in a mindful morning kind of way. And that's just because I'm an early bird. My natural energy is in the morning, and that might not be for everybody in your family. So something to think about and be mindful of is when the right time is for your family. You don't want to, pull them out of bed all cranky to get into these deep conversations, but what's the natural rhythm of energy? What's that energy cycle for you? And then these are some tips. We started today's session with gratitude, and we can all deep breath in together in 3, 2, 1. Inhaling lots of love in, holding that pause, thinking about some gratitude again, and letting lots of love out on the exhale. Another thing that you might do is wake up with love. Good morning, Baltimore. Ask your kid for a nice bear hug, take deep breaths together. Waking up with love. What does that mean for you and your family? Moving your body. How does your family like to physically move? What's your favorite way to move? And then keeping track. I love writing things down so that I can go back to it. What's the thing that's going to work for you? Writing it down in a journal, maybe a calendar, maybe an app. And then nourishing your body. So before you do anything with the outside world, drink water together, wash your hands, wash your face together, moisturize. Those are easy physical touches, taking care of your body that you can do together as a family. And then the big thing that we are talking about here is the love languages. We are using Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. These are going to come back up later in our session. I just wanted to show them here in case people were not familiar with what the 5 love languages are. Receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch. So it really is up to you to think about, how do you like to give love? How do you like to receive love? It might be 2 different love languages. And then once you're aware of how you like to give and receive love, you might be better able to understand how the family members or those loved ones around you like to give and receive love. So this is also a great conversation starter with your family, just to get to know them a little better. And now I'm going to hand it over to Toria. She is an MSW and MPH candidate with us at Living Classrooms. This is her 2nd year supporting the work that we're doing, and she's going to share some really great information around restorative practices and decolonized parenting that we wanted to share with you all today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Toria Hawkins, and as Maritza shared, I'm a graduate student getting my dual master's degree in social work and public health. So I'll be sharing some information and tools about decolonized families that I've been learning through different trainings, some on conscious parenting and some on restorative practices. Before we dive into these topics, I want to invite everyone to do a collective deep breath with me. In through your nose for 3 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and breathe out your mouth for 5 seconds. So 3, 4, 5. Let's try it. In through your nose. Hold it. And exhale. Thank you. So let's talk about what decolonized parenting is. And we can actually stay on the previous slide for this one. Akilah S. Richards, who is an awesome authoress and speaker on decolonized parenting, defines it first as the act of shedding the habits that were developed because of the agency someone or something has over you. She also defines it as practicing beliefs that allow you to thrive, and not just survive. To break this down a bit, I have a reflection question. Think about where you learned how to be a family member. So father, daughter, partner, mother. Do you parent your children like how you were parented? If you don't have children, do you want to parent your children the way you were parented? Like how you see in the media? Why or why not? Do you feel that you have the freedom to make decisions in your family based on your personal values? Or are there outside pressures that you have to consider? So decolonizing or unschooling your family is an ongoing process of learning, unlearning, and appreciating the habits and unique traits of each family member. So restorative practices are a way of integrating this decolonized approach into your family. An example is having clearly written family rules, chores, or goals for family members to refer to. This could be on a whiteboard that is hung up in the living room, or it could be shared on a family calendar app. And this helps to make sure each family member is on the same page, knowing what is expected of them and what they can expect from each other. Also, using effective language like I feel statements or asking questions like what color is your heart today normalizes conversations around emotions and mental health. So when negative feelings do come up, you've already established a certain level of open communication around these topics. Collaborative conversations and decision-making happens when the opinions of each family member is valued and heard, even when there are disagreements. So parents can encourage their children to make age-appropriate decisions for themselves. For example, asking your toddler to choose which color shirt they want to wear every day, or some days. Even with using these restorative practices, it's natural for conflict and disagreements to come up. Restorative practices don't prevent problems. They just help create an environment within the family that facilitates collaborative problem solving and healing. When conflict does happen, it helps to be aware of your triggers. If it's a huge pet peeve of yours to be ignored, then calling your child or your partner and getting no response may make you feel upset very quickly. Knowing this won't prevent you from getting upset, but it may signal you to take a step back and separate how you're feeling from how you respond next. Yes, they may have ignored you, but does yelling at them align with your original goal, which was to ask them to help you? It's also helpful to know what expectations, well, to know that the expectations we have for ourselves are learned. Using the same example, we may expect our family members to respond to us on the first call because this is what our parents, our grandparents, family members expected or demanded of us. We may mirror these behaviors without thinking, did I like it when the person treated me that way, regardless of how old I was? Personally, I don't like being rushed ever, but it's very easy for me to rush my whole family to get ready in the morning. And this resembles really closely how I was rushed in the mornings when I was growing up. Being aware of this allows me to start the process of unlearning the behaviors. So this is also, it can be summed up with the golden rule. But before the golden rule, I'm actually gonna speak a little bit more about reflecting on experiences. As a Black woman, I can think of situations where I was considered as less than human, and my opinions didn't matter because I lacked a certain privilege. I reflect on these experiences when I parent because it's so easy to forget that being an adult is a privilege. So we have to be intentional about the authority we have over our family members. Now, all of this can be summed up with the golden rule, which says basically to treat others how we want to be treated. And I would like to add to that, that we should treat others how we want to be treated, even if we don't have to, because they're our family members and they may love us regardless. The last tip I have is to use conflict as an opportunity and to use it as an opportunity to communicate and model. So this is especially important for my parents here, since kids often mimic how they see the adults in their life handle conflict. So we should try to take the time to use effective language here and just say that you're upset and why you're upset. Model that people can still care about each other and respect each other's opinions, even if they don't disagree or if they don't agree. And take the time you need to cool down before trying to resolve the issue. Communicate honestly. You could say, I'm starting to feel upset and I need to take a moment, but I do want to continue this conversation later. That's also a great way to set boundaries and respect your own emotional needs. So next we have a graphic of an iceberg. which is a metaphor for a quote by psychologist Ashley Warner. And the quote says, "Beneath every behavior, there is a feeling. Beneath each feeling is a need. When we meet that need, rather than focusing and responding to the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause and not the symptom." So we'll dive a bit deeper into this quote as we continue to talk about needs. Every member of the family has their own personal needs. A key to promoting wellness in families is balancing the individual needs of family members, like diet, sleep, and emotional support, as well as the needs of the family as a whole. And this includes things like housing, shelter, family cohesion, and how well you communicate or how often you communicate. Author Tony Robbins writes about the 6 social human needs that influence how we make decisions and how we maintain our relationships. These are things that each person needs to make them feel like an important member of a family or group. These social needs are certainty, uncertainty or variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution or helping others. The checklist pictured here is one easy way of checking in with your relatives to see if these social needs are being met within the family. So I know that was a lot of information. Feel free to ask any questions or comments in the chat box, but I do have a reflection question. I would like if you could please type in the chat box one social need that you could check off the list already, and another social need that you would like to work on with your family. And you can also put any questions in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself as well.
That's taking a look at these on the right. A high and a low. One that you feel comfortable checking off, and another that your family could work on a little more.
And I'm just going to share some of the comments we have in the chat box.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Laditra, for joining us today and for engaging with us. You said that I can depend on my family is being met, that social need is being met. Awesome. And feeling connected. I feel connected to my family, so that connection, love, need is being met. That's great, great. Okay.
And then,
Maritza, can I read the last comment
yes,
we got in the box here?
Yep.
We have Luke, the met need is I can depend on my family. And one of the need is my family does new things. I can definitely relate there. That's something I want to incorporate in my family, is adding some uncertainty and variety. And we also have Shannon, who said, I need to work on doing more new things and fun things with the family. So yes, I'm in agreement with both of you there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for chiming in, and thanks Toria for laying all of this out. We could do a whole hour on the decolonized parenting and restorative practices, so we wanted to share it because we really felt it was important information to be sharing, especially on this kind of platform. But do your research, reach out to us if you want to dive in a little deeper. It's really fun to be looking at, and we're going to be doing our own research so that we can be applying more of this through living classrooms too. And the next slide is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Our background, I don't know where to put this chat box, there we go, or the thing. Our background is in social work, and we look at human behavior. This is a psychology theory. And right here on the right is what most people are used to looking at, the self-actualization at the top of the pyramid, physiological needs at the bottom, like your air, water, housing. The second one being safety, personal safety, employment, your health, then your level of connectedness, your level of esteem, and then feeling like you're doing something connected to something that's greater than you. And what we're presenting here are some self-reflection questions on the left for each category that you might want to use for yourself as an individual, and then challenge yourself to look at your family, look at your loved ones, spark this conversation. It's, only a way to get deeper meaning and deeper relationships with those closest to you. And the nice thing is that most of the time you might not know the answers, and that's perfectly fine. Again, in mindfulness practice, like the biggest thing is to not judge yourself. You are observing where you are on your life journey at this very moment. And if your starting point is, I have no idea what this means and it makes me uncomfortable because it's too much to think about, that's your starting point. And maybe tomorrow you'll feel a little more comfortable looking at the questions. And maybe next week you might answer the question. But the whole thing here is challenging yourself to get out of your comfort zone and then challenging your family to join you. So if there are any comments or reactions to the hierarchy of needs, please feel free to chime in the chat box. But I'm going to keep going here just to make sure we get through everything, because I know we packed it in today. So what we're going to do with this one, we're not going to do small breakout groups, but I would like you all to share in the chat box. Think about your time with your family and think about the space that you have. That has been a huge issue, right? With the pandemic, working from home, our lives adjusting to all of it. And some of the biggest things that have been difficult to adjust to are sharing time with your family, being at home, and then sharing space. Where do the kids do their work? Is everybody using one laptop? So when is the best time for your family to do these kinds of mindful check-ins? Think about that, and share your answers in the chat box. And then where? This is just personal reflection for you. Where is the best time? And maybe the where is that you feel like you have to corral your family in the car, and your car is going to be the mindful check-in, that car ride when you have everybody together. You can play some soothing music and see what happens. Everybody's family is different. And maybe if we share our responses and collectively see, that we're kind of in the same boat, we're all struggling with the same things and figuring it out together. It just gives you that sense of belonging and connectedness that, I'm not the only one that's trying to squeeze in 5 seconds of mindfulness at my house. So when you're comfortable, please feel free to share in the chat box. And Toria, if you can help me with the responses, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we have one response so far from Laditra, and she says, the win is that it's virtually time is difficult. I can definitely resonate with that. It's difficult to coordinate a time for all of us to meet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can agree. Schedules, conflicting schedules, there's a lot of moving factors sometimes.
Definitely. And think about if this could be something over meals, right? If your family is in the habit of sitting down together, maybe there's a time to do that, even if it's not a big meal, but maybe you can take snack together, or maybe you all decide to drink some tea together, and that's like a 10-minute break in your day to just do a check-in. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, and Shannon actually made that great point. She said lunchtime is the win, and the where at the table. That's really the only time we all stop and intentionally sit still together. So
that's great.
Great points. And also that's an opportunity for you to practice mindful eating, which is really looking at the food, smelling the food, tasting the food, really taking in the whole experience of, what you're putting into your body.
Yes. This is these kinds of mindful eating exercises Toria and I do with the students in living classrooms after school programs. Teaching them some mindfulness skills, and mindful eating is obviously a kid's favorite lesson. So that's definitely a way that you can get some buy-in. Okay, from love languages, we are here talking about the 5 love languages. This is the same slide that we shared earlier. Earlier, you were asked to think about how you as an individual like to give love and how do you like to receive it. This is a book by Gary Chapman, and the framework is a really way it's a really fun way to just get curious about yourself, and then you're able to be more aware of the people around you and how they might be reacting and why. And what we did here is put together a chart based on the love language with how to express it, and then a column here on after conflict, and that's the one that I'm going to focus on, because that's kind of the more delicate one, right? Like we know how to treat people with love when everything's great and you're hopping on clouds and it's all sunshine and rainbows. But after the conflict, it might be a little more delicate. And if you know your family members' love language, these are just some suggestions that you might be able to apply once you are aware of how they like to receive love. So words of affirmation after conflict: speaking words that build security and a sincere apology. Acts of service as the love language after conflict: make behavior changes. If the love language is quality time after conflict, make that eye contact, actively listen with empathy. And when you're actively listening, don't judge. You're opening your ears, you're being in the moment, you're giving them your undivided attention to listen. If receiving gifts is the love language, a small token or even a handwritten apology would be great after conflict. And physical touch, holding each other with a hug, cuddling, sometimes sitting side by side on the couch or at the table is also what that person might need.
It's a quick question in the chat. Are we sharing a PDF of the materials here? Someone asked for a copy of that love languages chart.
Oh, great. You know what? Our email is going to be at the end, and feel free to send me an email and I will share this with you. And then I will find out with the Healing City folks if there is a way to email out the presentation later. I'm happy to do that, but I think the easiest thing might be for you to just email wellness@livingclassrooms.org, and that is going to be on the last slide when we're done today. Thanks, Toria. So for the next slides, what we're going to do is just go through these real quick. We have 10 minutes left, and we're going to share some things to try, love language by love language, and some things to avoid. So with words of affirmation, you can try thoughtful messages, complimenting, writing a love letter, sharing reasons why you appreciate your family member. Or
things to avoid are assuming the person knows they're appreciated, using harsh words, being cold-hearted or forcing compliments, and going long periods of time without telling them that you love or appreciate them.
And acts of service, doing some of their chores, packing their lunch, letting them sleep in, or doing something they forgot to do.
And things you should try not to do are ignore their requests for help, not follow through with what you say you will do, and being closed-minded.
If quality time is the love language you're interested in, try making a meal together, putting your phone away when you're together, sharing stories and listening intently, and sitting next to each other just to enjoy each other's company.
And avoid being distracted when you're together, assuming that they're just being needy or clingy, and complaining about the time you spend together.
For receiving gifts, you might try being thoughtful when giving a gift, small gifts when somebody's feeling down, and being intentional about holidays and birthdays.
And avoid assuming that they're just being materialistic, forgetting special occasions like birthdays and anniversaries, and avoid giving a gift just because you have to, without really putting any love into the gift that you're choosing.
And the last one, physical touch. Try initiating a gentle touch like a hug, hand holding or hand washing. Offer foot or back massages, or just a simple walk by touch. You're walking by somebody and you lightly touch them on the back or the shoulder, or even a soft texture like a cozy blanket.
And things to avoid for physical touch are going long periods of time without touching the person, coldly giving them affection, and assuming that they'll be the first one to show you affection.
We went through those quickly. Again, if you would like the slides later, I'm happy to share them out. And this is a summary of what activities you might want to try to spend better quality time together as a family based on the love language. So take a look, take a screenshot if you want. And the next thing that we're going to do is the action plan. We have 7 minutes left. So what we'll do is maybe just like 2 minutes to take a look at it, analyze it, see what pops out at you. This is a logic model. This is the way my mind works. So at the end, you have better quality time. This is the ultimate goal. And think about what that means for you. What does that mean for you as an individual? And what does that mean for you as a family? What will better quality time lead you to? A stronger sense of connection, more time, like that's what you want, the length of time, whatever that means to you. And then work backwards. I start with resources. What do you already have? What do you already have at your house? What do your neighbors have? Maybe other family members that you could use for your better quality time. Who can support you? When is the best time and where are you less busy? So again, bringing that really important detail of time and place, especially as we're still working from home and balancing our lives with everybody at home. Where can you spend that time? And then the activities. Which love languages do you want to focus on? If you're doing this action plan just for you as an individual, what kind of love are you focusing on? The kind you like to give or the kind you like to receive? And what's the best way for you to express that? And then you can think about that for your family. How often? What's the frequency? What's a realistic time frame? You know, again, thinking about like your daily hours of the day, thinking about your family's energy cycle. And when can you make this happen and how often? So is it a monthly thing that you want to try? Is it a weekly check-in? And the outcome. When you do those activities and when you do them as often as you want, what do you expect will happen? What is that result? And all of this is, again, you can apply it to yourself as an individual and you can apply it to your family and write down on paper the resources that you already have, the activities that you might want to do, the time attached to it, your outcomes to lead you to that ultimate goal, better quality time as a family. So at this point, I hope you're reflecting. I hope you're taking this in, taking some notes about what might work best for you and your family. And we'd love to open up the chat box. This is the last thing that this is our last activity together. If you want to talk and unmute your mic, now's the time. We have about 3 minutes left. If you want to use the chat box, we can also keep chatting that way. We presented a lot of material here and we knew it was going to be packed. So please feel free to follow up with us and feel free to ask some questions. This is what we love to talk about. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
So at this point, if you have any questions, you're chatting in the chat box. And if not, hopefully you're writing some of this down and really thinking about your own action plan and getting a head start on that. And this kind of reflection, I start with a weekly basis. I'll write it down, and I like to do this kind of check-in and the one that we started with this morning on Fridays, because it's a way to wrap up the week for me and really think about how I'm physically and emotionally feeling by the end of the week, and then maybe what I need to recharge over the weekend. And the same thing with this kind of action plan. You might want to look at it on a Friday and see what your plan could be for the weekend and spending some really intentional family time together.
We have a comment in the chat box from Laditra saying, thank you. This presentation is definitely leading to healing families. And I greatly appreciate that comment.
Thank you.
And we also have a comment, what is your email address? I would like the PowerPoint presentation. I'll also type the email in the chat box.
Thank you, Toria.
No
and
problem.
I just switched the slide so you have it here at the bottom. wellness@livingclassrooms.org. Oops, it says .com, but it's .org.
Yeah, so in the chat box, we have the wellness@livingclassrooms.org.
Yep, and we have 1 minute left, so just sit back, relax, do what you're doing. Think about what you've learned. Think about how you might be able to apply it. And again, with all of this, show yourself kindness and grace. No judgment. Be mindful of where you are on your journey today, Friday at noon. And this is perfect. Where you are today is perfect. It's exactly as it should be.
And I would just like to add that if you have an affirmation that you wrote from earlier, now would be a good time to say it out loud. When I was thinking of one in my head and I came up with, I am enough. So even if you didn't come up with your own affirmation, I invite you all to just say out loud, I am enough. And that's a great way to continue with your day.
Thank you, Toria. And if you do email us, we will be sharing the slides, which include the references that we used for the presentation. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you, Aisha, for being here too. And Healing City, this event is fantastic. Have a wonderful day.
All right, have a nice day.